Hi everyone, and welcome to NameHero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. In today's video, I want to talk about what is the best hosting package for your website. I think this is a very common question that's asked. I need web hosting for my website, but I'm not sure which package I need. I know NameHero has web hosting, reseller hosting, VPS, and cloud dedicated, but which one is best for my business? And this is something that our pre-sales team spends a lot of time on, explaining the differences. So I wanted to get a video out to kind of compare some of our most popular solutions and kind of give my recommendations. So regardless of what size your business is, you're going to find a hosting package that works well and that allows you to also grow. Because at NameHero, it's our goal to make your site extremely fast, safe, secure, reliable, always online, but also scalable. So as your business grows, your hosting package can grow with it. Because there's nothing more frustrating than having a package and then getting a ton of hits and then the site going offline because you don't have enough resources. So we work hard at NameHero to make sure that doesn't happen. We never just suspend your account because it's getting too many hits. We have limits in place. If you start reaching those limits, you can easily see those in cPanel, so you know it's about time to upgrade. So let's talk about what your options are. Right now I'm on the main page of NameHero, and in the top slider here, we just kind of highlight our web hosting packages. And I just refreshed it. So you can see they start at, right now with our current discount, about $5.81 a month, not a lot of money. And our main package, it comes with a free domain, auto SSL, free migration, and a one-click WordPress install. So if I click view pricing plans, that brings me down here so I can see all of my options at that point. So you can see our web hosting starts around $6. The VPS goes all the way up to about 30. Then the dedicated is about 151 a month. So, it's quite the difference in prices. So I think that confuses some people. So let's talk about, for the basic websites, your mommy bloggers out there, your small businesses, your individuals with blogs, your individuals with startups, where should you get started? If you don't have a website or you're just getting started with one, what's the best package? I want to talk about our web hosting because that's probably one of the most popular packages here at NameHero is our web hosting packages as a whole. So let's click compare plans. And we can go through the different ones here. So our web hosting, this is for individuals and businesses that have, the same owner. So if you're a business and you have clients, then you probably want to go with reseller hosting. And we'll talk about that in the latter part of this video. But if you're a business and you just have your client, just your business, then you want to select web hosting. So all of our web hosting packages, and in NameHero, we try to remain very consistent with our hardware and the premium infrastructure across all packages. That way you have the same power and resources available. It's just at different limits. And so that's why you can pay less, and then as you grow, you can scale up, and then you pay more because it's based on resources. It's all containerized hosting. So it's you're set up in a container on the same type of hardware, but it easily allows you to grow and scale, which is the power of the cloud. So our web hosting packages, these are a very affordable way. It says on here, freaky fast, affordable cloud web hosting. And that was another main goal at NameHero, is to provide a high-speed cloud web hosting solution that was affordable. Because really, before I started NameHero, that's why I started. I couldn't find a solution to recommend to small businesses and individuals that wanted to harness the power of the cloud, without spending thousands of dollars, without spending hundreds of dollars to have to get their site or their server built and then put their site online. And so that was where our web hosting was, how it was really originated. So we have 4 different packages: the Starter, Plus, and Turbo, and Business. Each one of these sites, you can see underneath of the headline here, it says suitable for 10,000 or about 10,000 visits, 25,000 visits a month, 50,000 visits a month, and 100,000 visits a month. So the first thing I'm going to say is that we don't cap you on visitors. This is an estimate. So your site might get way more than 10,000 visitors a month on the Starter Cloud, or it might get less. A lot of it depends on how your website's set up. So I'd say that probably 98% of people that are watching this, and really 99% of our customers, use WordPress in some capacity or another, or at least a similar piece of software. So that might include Joomla, Drupal, another content management system that relies on PHP and MySQL. Now, with just your standard WordPress install, it has the WordPress core files, which are PHP. All the data is stored in the database. And then, of course, you can add plugins, which is a combination of files, which then stores the data for those plugins in the database. So depending on how many plugins you have, as well as how your theme's coded, it really determines on how many resources that you use. Sites that have tons of plugins use a lot more resources than ones that don't. I always say when you add a plugin to WordPress, you want to make sure that, one, it's a reputable developer, and two, after that's said, make sure that you have a valid reason to add the plugin. I know that there's some, I all the time have my ear to the ground in the support department and looking at sites and, especially ones that run into problems, and I want to know more about it. So, what can we do to our infrastructure to avoid those problems? Well, a lot that run into those are because they're using, so many plugins for really seamless stuff, stuff that doesn't really need a plugin. Google Analytics is one I like to use as an example. Google Analytics is really easy to insert. If you use Cloudflare, you can insert it in there. You can just insert it into your code if you have a custom theme. But if you have a premium theme from a reputable developer, a lot of times they have an interface to put your Google Analytics code. So really, installing a plugin to put Google Analytics on is overkill, in my opinion. Contact form, that's okay. Lightspeed Cache, we provide that free. That's a great plugin. A security plugin, that's good. But you just don't want to overload it with plugins for stuff that's not really relevant to your site. If you're trying to add a banner or a pop-up or a pop-under or whatnot, you're better off to kind of add those into the theme using some code, some short code, or some different functionality of the theme versus getting in a plugin and stacking it on top of it. And also I mentioned the reputable developer. Sometimes people are smart nowadays, and sometimes these plugin developers, they're a little, I don't want to say completely sketchy, but a lot of times they just want to get downloads to their plugin, and each of them have their own objective, and I think, nowadays a lot of them is to make money, and so, they'll think of whatever reason why you might need a plugin, whatever functionality you might be seeking, and they'll develop a plugin around it, in hopes that you'll upgrade to the next version and pay them, or maybe they'll have a subscription, and, they make you think that you need it, but you don't. So, always do your research and homework and making sure you have a reputable developer and make sure you have a valid reason to have that plugin. I know the last thing I'll say about this is WordPress, the sharing buttons, on blog posts. We use it on ours, and it's something that's not near as popular nowadays. Nowadays, and as in 2020, most people, if they're going to share an article from your blog, most of the time they're going to just put it in Facebook themselves and share it. But you can incorporate a lot of those buttons into your theme. A lot of theme developers have the functionality already written in instead of adding a plugin. Now, there is some good theme sharing plugins out there, or social sharing plugins, but there are also some that's been vulnerable to attacks. And, that's something we saw really big here in 2019. There was a really large developer that had a plugin for that, and it was a compromise, and they had to release a 0-day fix, which means they released the fix that day because they just found out about it. And so you don't want to just overwhelm your site with plugins. The more plugins you use, the more resources you're going to use. So that's kind of gets back to the packages here. If you're loaded up with them, then of course you're going to need more power. So you're going to need a bigger package. So the starter cloud with the estimate of 10,000 visits, and this goes down to how much RAM. Basically the RAM and the CPU availability. So we have 1 gig, 2 gigs, 3 gigs, and 4 gigs. So how much memory the website can use. So the more traffic, the more hits you're getting or traffic, the more applications that's being used, uses up that RAM. And so, if your computer, if you have a lot of programs on your computer and you have a lot of windows open, it goes slower the more you have open and the more you're using. So kind of think of that in terms of for your website. So the more, busier the site is and stuff, the more you need. So I would say the starter cloud is good for one website, one domain. You cannot add any more domains than that to the starter cloud. So this is really good for those that, they just have one website. Maybe it's a blog, a small business website, and you're never going to have another one. You're never going to need hosting for another site. You can't have unlimited subdomains, but just one root domain. So the starter cloud has 1 gigabyte of RAM. So one website, 1 gigabyte of RAM. That is good for the startups out there, or for the sites that don't get a ton of traffic, your mom and pop businesses that, your primary business is not online, but you do want to have a website, you want to have that presence. The starter cloud is a good point to, as the name suggests, to get started. Everything at NameHero, or at least our web hosting and reseller hosting, has Lightspeed web server. So you're already going to benefit from things being fast, but it's really the number of websites and the RAM is the thing you want to look at. And so we try to keep it simple with this estimated number of visitors. And so I definitely want to make sure I really write home that point so I can cut back on support requests where pre-sales people are thinking that we're going to turn your site off if you reach over your allotment of visitors. That's not going to happen. The next thing to look out for is the number of files on a website. So all of our packages are unlimited SSD storage. So in terms of space, whether you have 100 megabytes or a gigabyte, we really don't count. We don't count that. We don't meter that allotment. Instead, we meter the actual number of files. So if you hit the little info button, you can see a maximum number of 250,000 inodes or files. And that's the same with the Plus, 250,000. And then if I go to the Turbo and the Business, it's 500,000. So, most all shared web hosts, and I would say probably all shared web hosts out there, have an inode or file limit of some type, especially if they're offering unlimited or unmetered the storage space. But most of them, they'll put it down in their terms or they'll make it kind of hard to find. At NameHero, it's very important to me that we put that up front so and so you can know what to expect. And so this goes back to when you're selecting your package, consider how many files are on your website. So the average WordPress website, I would say is about 1,000 files at most, not a ton. But then the second big whammy is how many emails do you have? So if you're going to be using email on your hosting account, then if you don't delete or clear out your junk box frequently, or you don't clear out your inbox frequently, I do, my wife doesn't. So it's a matter of what your preference is on that. But each email, it actually takes up file space. So the more emails you have, and the more spam emails and stuff that you're not clearing out, that takes up more of the file allotment on each package. So use that as another determining factor. And I know nowadays a lot of our customers, they like Google Apps, or it's called G Suite now, and Zoho Mail, or using Outlook, or another program outside of their hosting to serve their emails. So if you're using that, then really that's irrelevant to you. It doesn't matter, and probably any of these packages are going to be fine in the number of files. But if you're one that you want to have your emails on your package, which of course we have a fair amount of customers that do as well, then you're going to want to choose one that's appropriate in the size of that. So even if you are a small to mid-size business and you have 10 email accounts for 10 employees or 20 email accounts for 20 employees, then you certainly need to be looking more over here at the Turbo and Business. Even though your site might not need as many resources, you might need more of that file allotment for those email boxes. So kind of keep that in consideration. Now, all of our packages have what we call our website toolkit and Security Shield and Superhero features. So I'll highlight those really quick. Our website toolkit, we have our Website Titan page builder. So, I think most of our customers and a lot of the internet out there, is WordPress and other content management system. But we have seen a need for a page builder. There's some companies out there, Wix is a huge one that has grown rapidly, so is Weebly, to where some customers, they want to be able to kind of drag and drop inside of their control panel and publish their website, without having to use WordPress. And so we have our web page builder called Website Titan, and it comes free on all of these accounts. So if you want to use a page builder, then that's a great option. And it's unlimited type builder, so you can build out as many pages as you need. It's got tons of preset premium themes, and it's available on all of them. So even if you don't use a page builder and you might think you might want to, it's there. We have the one-click WordPress installer and staging, so you can install WordPress with a couple of clicks, and you can also set up a staging environment so you can work on WordPress, work on your site without doing live site edits. If you need to add a plugin or change your theme, or change up your phone number and address, and you don't want to do it on the live site, you can stage it. All these packages have the capability to automatically update your WordPress, your plugins, and as well as any theme files. So as long as you make sure you don't disable that, you'll automatically keep things up to date. Unlimited email accounts, databases, and subdomains. So again, you can create unlimited email accounts, but the more email you use, you need to pay attention to the number of files, because the more boxes you have, the more file allotment you're going to use. Security Shield. This is it's a product of NameHero that combines the technology of several different vendors, including our own selves here at NameHero. So it's not just one or two features. It's a package that we've built together of technology based on our experience within the industry. So basically, with our Security Shield, we are working on taking two steps to security. Proactive, meaning that we're trying to avoid security events at your site to keep the site secure, as well as reactive. So if a security event does occur, someone or you upload a theme that has malicious coding in it, or someone gets your WordPress password and they inject malicious code into it, then we can recover from that a lot faster. So at NameHero, these tools here, the advanced firewall, the intrusion detection and protection, real-time malware detection, our proactive defense, reputation management, and auto application patching, all of those features work together in real time with artificial intelligence that's actually learning and picking up new threats. It's not like a piece of software that we just installed and set it and forget it. No, it's actually learning in real time. And at NameHero, we have a dedicated security and abuse team that's also tweaking and watching and viewing logs in real time, because the security of your website is very important. Superhero features. So this is stuff that kind of sets NameHero apart from some of the other hosts out there. And we got started in 2015. Some of the more larger brands, as I like to call them, or your more brand named companies, they started in early 2000 or even some of them the late 90s. So when we started NameHero, our entrance to the market was a lot of different, and I consider them premium features to the industry. And so this includes Lightspeed web server. It's up to 20 times faster than your traditional Apache web server. So most web hosts out there, they come standard with Apache, and if you want to use a premium server like Lightspeed, you have to pay extra. And I didn't want to do that at NameHero, so we just included it all together. The Lightspeed caching plugin, and again, I'm talking about all the packages here, so it doesn't matter which one you choose, it has these same features. The Lightspeed cache plugin is known to be the fastest WordPress caching plugin out there. And don't take my word for it. I'm talking about the research that's been put out there by independent companies as well as Lightspeed themselves. So you can just Google Lightspeed cache WordPress performance and start reading, and do your own research. But this is a free plugin that you install in WordPress, and it's also coming out for many other CMS systems, content management systems out there. And all I can say is speed test. Speed test your website without it, and then install it and add it and speed test your website with it. I've seen it pull off some amazing things, some really fast page loads, and it's free and included. Solid state drives with RAID 10. So solid state drives a lot faster as far as the read writes are concerned. A lot of web hosts out there still use the old school SATA drives because they are cheaper. And if you want to add like an SSD drive, you have to pay them a premium as an upgrade. It's standard here at NameHero. Cloudflare with Railgun. So Cloudflare, a lot of people are familiar with that. It's a security product as well as a content delivery network. It helps fight off attacks to your site, but also optimizes your images, your CSS, your JavaScript, and your other files. So you can go right into NameHero's cPanel, enable Cloudflare, and have it active on your site. You don't have to go to cloudflare.com and do the DNS setup and change your name servers and enable it. You can just enable it inside a cPanel. It makes it easy. Also working with us at NameHero, you have access to a Railgun. And so a Railgun is a piece of software that's installed at NameHero, and it works with Cloudflare. So when it's enabled on your site, it will pull the resources from your site and deliver them to wherever the visitor is located, to wherever the visitor is closest. So I'm in Kansas City. If I go access NameHero and I'm using the Railgun, when I'm actually pulling the resources for the NameHero site, I'm pulling it from Cloudflare's Kansas City data center. So it makes the site load up to 200% faster than just without it. And, especially internationally, our customers love it. So, my computer, if I'm pulling up NameHero, it thinks the server for NameHero is essentially in Kansas City when it's actually in Lansing, Michigan. So, in Kansas City and Michigan, it's not a huge distance. So it's really, for me, it's not a tremendous speed increase, but it is a speed increase. But some of our visitors that are really far away, it really does, accelerate it. So it just makes sites load really, really fast, and it's free and automatic at NameHero. If you go to Cloudflare to buy this with them direct, you have to have their business package, and their business package is $200 a month per domain. So just one domain on Cloudflare's business package, which is why Cloudflare has been so wildly successful and just went public. But we love Cloudflare, but you get that free at NameHero. We have free nightly backups on all of these accounts. We have 1 night's retention. You can manage the backups inside a cPanel. So if you ever need to restore your entire site or a database, an email, or just one file or one directory, you can do that all inside of cPanel. If you want to add more than 1 night's backup, then you have the option to do that, but it's additional because we only include that 1 night's backup, and then it's up to you. And the reason we do that is a lot of our customers we've seen over the years, they have their own backup solution already. They say, Ryan, we appreciate your hosting, we love it, but for backups, we like to have that on our side because we like to just see it and have that kind of separate from our hosting. And I think that's fair. I don't disagree with that. That's great. I think everyone should keep their own backups. But we do have the option with another trusted provider called Drop My Site, to where if you want to use them, it is a complete offsite location than NameHero that stores your site. So, in the unfortunate event that NameHero would burn to the ground tomorrow, which, no one hopes that ever happens. We have plenty of policies if something would ever happen that would create a threat, but still, you can sleep sound knowing that it's a completely different location than your actual active website. And we have 99.9% uptime and 24/7 support. One thing I'll say about our uptime is this is website uptime. It's not just server uptime. Servers sometimes Lightspeed would go down and the server's still online though, but Lightspeed's down. So that doesn't mean your website's online. MySQL, if it crashes, which we use Maria database, but if the database engine crashes, your site's not loading, but the server's still up. So see, some companies out there, they'll say 99% uptime and they mean server uptime. But does that mean website? Some of them will say, and this is probably the most common, network uptime. Go read the fine print at a lot of companies out there and they'll say 99.9% network uptime. Network uptime means not your website, not the server. It means the connectivity of the server to the internet. I'd say any data center out there in 2020 has 4 or 5 backbones at least, because backbone means the actual line to the internet that connects that server to the public-facing internet. If one of those lines go down, then no one can access your site. So every data center out there nowadays has several of those, because if one goes down, you don't want everything to be offline. So 99.9% network uptime, that should be 100% all the time. 99.9% server uptime, that still doesn't mean your website's going to be online 99% of the time. But at NameHero, we say 99.9% website uptime. And so, you can go check out the reviews, and I'm going to do a video here soon on Uptime, and I'm going to go through our real-time Uptime Explorer. That was hard to say. And you can see it, and I'll show you like historical live data from our servers, so you can put it to the test. But I always tell customers, make up your own mind. You can read reviews out there about our uptime at NameHero from our current customers, but test it for yourself. Try us out for 30 days and you'll see. 24/7, 365 support. So call us, chat us, or ticket us 24/7, 365. We're here waiting on you. If you're like me, sometimes you like to work on your website at 9 a.m., but sometimes you like to work on it at 2 a.m. Sometimes it's 3 a.m. Sunday night or Saturday morning, and you're trying to tinker with it, and oh crap, I broke something, or I need some help. And I get that because I've been there. Call us. We will answer the phone. You don't even get an IVR menu. You'll get someone when you give us a call on the phone. Give us a live chat. We'll answer it within 60 seconds, most of the time much quicker than that. And tickets we respond to within 15 minutes. So, regardless of your method of communication, we are here for you. So that's our hosting packages, kind of in a nutshell, but also kind of breaking down, some of the features. And the most important thing is these are for one individual or one business, or, you don't really interchange this. If you're an individual and you want hosting for your site, then you have a friend that says, hey, I've got a site and, I see you can host more than one website on your package. Can I host with you? Well, you essentially have to share the same cPanel. So you're sharing the same login. And I just think that creates a security loophole. I think if you have multiple people, multiple companies in your organization, you should look at reseller hosting. But one more thing about web hosting, and then we're going to talk more about reseller hosting in detail, is you'll notice the number of websites you can host. One website with the starter, the plus is 6, the turbo and the business are both unlimited. So you get one cPanel account, but you can add add more than one website inside of that cPanel account. So that's why I would say, and it's noted on here, the most popular is our Plus Cloud package, because most customers that come in, the starter cloud makes sense, if you're really budgeting. But if you have one website, the chances are you're probably going to have another somewhere down the line. And even if you have just one brand or one company, sometimes you want to set up a separate domain for a promotion. Sometimes if you're an individual, you might change that site's name. There's many different cases. Or if your company might have, a website for a certain product, then another website for another kind of product. And so going at the Plus at least allows you that flexibility. So even right now, if you just have one, but you might need another one, the Plus is probably the most affordable way to go about that. And it also comes with 2 gigabytes of RAM, so it's going to kind of give you double the power and also the ability to have 6 websites. Now, for those that are a little bit more popular, that are already kind of getting traffic and more established, I'd start over here at the Turbo or Business, because the 3 gigs of RAM and the 4 gigs of RAM, you can kind of base this off your traffic, what your traffic look like, and you're going to have that larger file allotment, the 500,000 files versus the 250. So more resources, more files. And so that's kind of the end that I would look at, as well as putting unlimited domains inside of cPanel. Now, once you start getting to, I always say about 20 or more, you probably want to start looking at a reseller to kind of break those up just for performance benefits mainly. So they have their own cPanel account, which also receives more power because power can be allocated per cPanel. So you might be better off if you have more than 20 websites, especially more than 50 or more, you definitely need to look at a reseller account. So our web hosting packages, these are where you get started. The more established sites should choose the Turbo or Plus. The average website, and when I say average, I mean just the individual that has a website, but is not really primarily an online business. I always like to use my dad as an example. He owns a self-storage facility. His business is offline, but he needs a website. It's very important to his business too, because a lot of his customers nowadays, they pay him through his website. So if his website's offline, they can't pay. And so his website saves him from having to be at the office 24/7 to collect a payment. And it's kind of old school, write a check. Instead, they can go right on their site so they can use their phone. But his primary business isn't online, but his business website's important to be online. So he uses the Plus Cloud, and that's a true story, 100%. But whereas the Turbo or Business are more like websites that are online only businesses, already kind of established and need extra resources but aren't quite yet ready for a VPS. Now, with all that said, at any time you need to upgrade. Inside NameHero's cPanel, we show you the exact resources of your account in cPanel. So not only do we just show you how many files you're using or how much bandwidth, which is unmetered anyways, but how much RAM. Are you reaching a limit of RAM or CPU cores or different processes that warrants an upgrade? That's when I started NameHero, a lot of other hosts in the industry, if you got a big burst of traffic, let's say your website got featured on Hacker News or it got featured on Facebook, or an article went viral and then your website got suspended or it just went down because it used too many resources. I felt like that was really unfair. And so at NameHero, we use a software called Cloud Linux, and so it isolates, it containerizes each site. And so this way, one website that gets featured on Facebook and goes viral, it won't take down an entire node, it won't take down your neighbors that are on the same server, but instead, inside of cPanel, it will show you your reaching limits, and you can set this up to view it inside, so you can view like the last 24 hours if I've reached any limits. And when those limits are reached, what will happen is the site will show a resource limit reached page, but then as soon as those resource limits are relaxed, your site loads free and fine again. So sometimes if that happens for like a minute, then it might have been a blurb, or might have got a spike of traffic really quick. But if you start to see that happen, for a longer duration than 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, then it's time to start upgrading. And inside NameHero's interface, you can upgrade instantly from starter all the way to business, or you can go back down, business to Turbo to Plus to starter. You can go up and down instantly at NameHero and scale up. So even if you have the starter and your startup, you get written about on TechCrunch, it goes viral, you can easily be on the business cloud as long as it takes you to log into NameHero and click the upgrade button. So very flexible here. And so I recommend that, if you're getting started, you have kind of the average type of website, go with the Plus or go with the Turbo, based on how many files you plan on using, if you plan on using emails, and then kind of take it from there. So if you're undecided, that's what I recommend. Now let's talk about our reseller hosting. So our reseller hosting is very similar to our web hosting. It still has Lightspeed web server. It does come with a piece of software called WHMCS, and I filmed a ton on our YouTube channel. So go through our NameHero YouTube channel and you can learn more about what WHMCS is. But it's billing software primarily for reseller web hosting, but it's also great billing software in general. So if you resell, services, website design work, SEO, social media, advertising work, or management for companies, it's great to use for that as well. So you get a free license on our Gold, Platinum, and Diamond for that. Free and automatic SSL. SSL should be free nowadays everywhere, but unfortunately it's not at some hosts. NameHero, all of our hosting packages, regardless web hosting, reseller hosting, VPS, or dedicated, have free and automatic SSL for all websites. So regardless if you have 1 or 100, all the websites are covered with SSL. But our reseller hosting, it's primarily, we see WordPress developers, designers, marketing agencies, those that, kind of work in the industry and are wanting to offer their clients a web hosting account as either an additional stream of revenue for their business or as maybe an add-on to a service they're already providing. And so our reseller hosting is great for that. I would say primarily that's what it's used for. But also if you're watching this and you're deciding on your hosting package and you have more than 20 websites that need hosting, or you have some websites that are shared, owned by other people. Me, for instance, I've been working online for a little over 20 years, and at times, I've had my personal website, my personal blog, and I've had, a company that I owned, but then I've had other companies where I've had partners. And so the companies I have partners with, I don't want to share my personal hosting with. So the reseller hosting is really good for those type of situations. If you have the need to have multiple clients logging into the same hosting, the most safest, best performing, secure, reliable way is with a reseller account without having to spend money on a VPS or a dedicated. A reseller account is kind of like a mini dedicated or mini VPS in a sense, because you get access to Web Host Manager, which is the same on our VPS, and you can also get on our dedicated, which allows you to set up cPanel accounts. And each one of these packages allows you to set up a certain number of cPanel accounts. So the silver is 40, the gold is 60, the platinum is 80, and the diamond's 100. So even if you're not reselling these accounts, but you have the need for multiple accounts, you have multiple people, then these are your options here. Too often, even at NameHero, we'll see customers come in and they have clients, 5-10 clients sharing the same cPanel, and it's a mess. It's a mess to not only keep track of, but it's a mess to keep the login secure, but also the file structure gets to be a friggin' wreck. So don't let that happen to you. Since NameHero, everything's containerized, each cPanel is containerized, meaning it's in its own cage. PHP's caged, the file structure of that website's caged, and so that customer, that user cannot break outside of that cage and see anything else. So if you have more websites or multiple people in your organization, this is where you should be looking. You don't have to be reselling. There's no extra technical work. There's an extra interface you get. If you look on YouTube, we have tons of videos on how to add sites and set them up, but it's very, very easy. And so it doesn't take a server guru, a techie, or someone that's like me that's been around online for a long time to have a reseller account. So I want to go ahead and get that out of your head now. If you think, oh my gosh, it's too complicated. No, it's not. It's easy. You're just setting up multiple logins basically and allocating space. Well, and you say, okay, now you mentioned space, Ryan. The reseller accounts have space allotments, whereas your web hosting's unmetered. Well, yes, that's true. Because you have the ability to set up unlimited accounts, you have to be capped somewhere so we're not overselling our services, because we oversold, that wouldn't make good sense, right? That would be bad, poor network quality. So this is based on the usage. So let's say your website, this doesn't mean you can create 4 accounts at 10 gigabytes each. That does not mean that. That means on what you're actually using is your account as a whole. So you might have 20 accounts, 30 accounts, 50 accounts, 100, well, you couldn't use that many. 40 accounts is the max, but you might have 40 accounts and be nowhere near the 40 gigabytes of space. Or you might have 20 accounts and reach the 40 gigabytes of space. But it's on actual usage, not on what you allocate to each account. If the accounts, if you have all 40 accounts and you have some that are using a gig and some that are using 10, you can break it up per account. You can, when you create these accounts, you give each account its own limit. And if you need more, that's why you can easily upgrade. Just like our web hosting, inside of NameHero's interface, all you do is click upgrade. And you can go from silver to gold to platinum to diamond, in real time. So anytime you're, looking like you're going to reach the space limit, then you can just upgrade to the next package. Bandwidth, same reason. We limit the bandwidth, but again, it's you can assign the allotment to each site, and then if you need more, you can upgrade to the next package. Bandwidth nowadays, and I say this very frequently in all my videos, just very rarely do we see people, come anywhere close to these limits, especially with Cloudflare and other content delivery networks out there. Bandwidth just doesn't seem to be a big metric anymore. Those sites that use a ton of it are like video file sharing sites, which, most people nowadays do not use hosting to file share videos. That's why they have YouTube and many other mediums out there to do that. The free and automatic SSL, that's on everything. I think we've already highlighted that in pretty good detail. It's also important to remember that, each one of these client accounts can create unlimited domains. So you can specify the number. So if you have you have 40 cPanels. In those 40 cPanels, each one of them, they can have as many domains as they want. So if your client has 50 websites, they can set them all up inside of one cPanel. I personally would recommend breaking it into 2 at 25 each, but hey, you can do what you need to do in accordance to your budget. But let's talk about limits. So we already talked about on our web hosting, we talked about the RAM limits and the file limits and all that. But what are the limits for the reseller account? If I go down here, you can see we put them on the page here. So the CPU, this is just the branded CPU. You get one CPU core or 100% of a full core. And so, this gets confusing to some people. This again goes down to, how many hits is the site getting? How much traffic? How many plugins is it using? Same as our web hosting though, this is shown to you inside of cPanel. So if you're reaching that or encroaching on that limit, then you're going to have to upgrade that one cPanel account, not the whole reseller, just that one cPanel account. And you can reach out to our sales team, we'll help you. Most people, 99% of sites that come on NameHero don't come close to these limits. And if they do, we of course diagnose and fix whatever issue it is. But RAM, you get 2 gigs of virtual and 1 gig of physical memory. So this kind of goes back to our web hosting packages. Remember the starter had 1, then it went 2, then 3, then 4. So you have about 2 gigs here of memory that each cPanel account has access to. And so, if you have 100 domains or 100 websites needing hosting, you'd probably want to break those into groups of 25. So 4 cPanel accounts with 25 each if you have 100 domains, because that's going to give them more power. And so again, you can see this inside a cPanel and you can make adjustments necessary. So we have all these limits up front so you can see it. And the same with the concurrent processes, concurrent connection processes, IO limit, and IOPS per second, and files. Files we'll talk about lastly. But these other items here, this doesn't mean concurrent connections, does not mean, how many people on your site. That doesn't mean just 25. A concurrent connection can bring a lot more traffic than just 25. But again, it bases on, how much taxing are you doing on the database engine. I'm trying not to get too technical. So, how many plugins do you have on the WordPress site? If you're running a WooCommerce e-commerce WordPress site, it's going to be a lot more taxing than just your mommy blog that has posts that people are reading. If people are adding inventory to their cart and you're uploading products, that's more taxing versus someone just viewing a site. So that's why we show these in cPanel, and if you need to upgrade, of course, you can do that. But by default, each account you create has these allotments here. And again, you have up to 40 with the basic, and then it kind of goes on from there. Finally, the Inodes, so the number of files per account is 250,000. And again, very rarely do we see customers go over 250,000. To put this in perspective, for many years it was 100,000 at NameHero, and recently we made the decision to go into just 250,000, and now we very rarely see it. Even at 100,000, I think most people were fine. And I think we probably got maybe 2% of customers that came in had issues with that. So really, I don't really look too much into that. Most people that do reach it, they reach out to our support department, and we look, I'm like, hey, are you aware you have an email box with like 10,000 junk emails in it? If you delete that, you'll be fine. So it's really stuff like that. So we'll work with you, anytime this is you're concerned about that. But unlike other hosts out there in the industry, we show these limits in cPanel in real time. So there's no guessing about what limit you're reaching or on. It's going to show you. And it's just, there's no color if you're fine in limit. If you start encroaching a limit, it goes yellow. And if you reach a limit, it turns red. So we make it very, very simple to see it. And again, it's in real time. Okay, so with that said, you can create 40 individual cPanel accounts, unlimited domains in each one, with the mentioned limits I just said below. So you can use that to kind of gauge where you fall on this spectrum. I think the silver is great for entrepreneurs and even startups out there that's not just selling reseller hosting, but has multiple websites. My old advertising agency that I owned, we used to do online digital marketing, of course, and we had several landing pages. So we'd set up landing pages for advertisers, and we would buy traffic on Facebook and Google and media buys to those landing pages and then send them out to buy the product. But what we did is we had a lot of domains, a lot of websites. So a reseller account was a great way for us to test new campaigns really quick to see what's getting, going to really stick. And then we could port that over to VPS and dedicated. That way we're not taking off that huge investment. So these are very similar to like a mini VPS or a mini dedicated in the fact that you have the ability to create accounts and terminate accounts, on the go and without taking that big investment right up front. So that's kind of our reseller hosting in a nutshell. And of course, these packages just go up in usage, all the way up to 200 gigabytes of storage and 2,000 gigabytes of bandwidth. But the cool thing is you can upgrade as you go right on along. You reach the 40 accounts, go to 60. You reach the 80, go to 100. You reach the 80 gigabytes of storage, go to the platinum. So we make it very, very simple, or try to at least. And these have the same features as web hosting, the security shield and superhero features. The reseller toolkit, has some of the same features as the WordPress installer and staging, auto updates. So all the accounts you set up can do this. All the domains set up in each cPanel account can have the one-click WordPress install. But we also have some extras for resellers. In this case here, the private name servers. So this kind of even gives the appearance, mentioning my advertising agency, that you are on a VPS or dedicated. You don't have to show NameHero. So it looks like to even your business partners and associates, you can white label it to your company so it doesn't show NameHero. So it's really beneficial for those not even reselling. They just want to look more professional, so they don't know you're spending $13.72 a month. They think you've got, especially with our infrastructure, $100 plus $1,000 cloud infrastructure that you're using. So our reseller hosting is great for those type of websites. So when you're going to decide your web hosting package, ask yourself, is there multiple people within my organization, or is there more than just me or whoever is behind the site logging into that cPanel? If I need to have multiple cPanel accounts, then I need to check out a reseller hosting package. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about VPS and dedicated, but again, this is that next step up. So our current VPS and dedicated customers, what we see a lot of is basically like that's the next step from reseller. So either the people are selling web hosting services and they want to customize all the way up to the operating system. Our VPS and dedicated both have full root access. So with reseller, with web hosting, you can have SSH access, but you can't have root access because they're on shared nodes. They're on the cloud, but they're shared nodes. VPS and dedicated, each one of those, you get a dedicated area on that node. The cloud dedicated is your actual own node. The VPS is you get a dedicated section of that node with actual dedicated hardware. So on our reseller and web hosting, the RAM is virtualized. It's virtualized RAM. On our VPSs, you actually have physically 2 gigabytes of RAM. 4 gigabytes of RAM, 6, 8. You actually have 2 CPU cores, 4 CPU cores, 6 CPU cores, and 8 CPU cores. And I guess a better way to say this is dedicated RAM, dedicated CPU cores. They're not shared amongst anyone. It's just for your server. So what this essentially means is you get a lot more power out of this type of RAM than the other packages. So really, if you're a reseller, if you're on a reseller package and you're reselling hosting and your business gets to a point to where you need full root access for whatever, adding specific software to customize your infrastructure, or trying to do something on there that you cannot do on regular hosting. A lot of pieces of certain applications require root access to install certain modules, then the VPS is great for you. Likewise, other than resellers, the small businesses, entrepreneurs, digital marketers, if you're pushing a lot of traffic and you'll know, most of the time you already know if you need a VPS out there, then this is where to get started. And just like our other packages, you start at the 2 and you can go all the way up. Now the 2 though, I don't really recommend it for production purposes. We used to never even have a 2. It was 4, 6, and 8. But we introduced a 2 because what we found is some startups that are developing applications, coding them from scratch, they need the ability to customize everything from the root operating system, but they have a really tight budget and they're just trying to deploy and develop and then launch. And so that's really what the 2 gigabytes for, and that's why you'll see great for developers on there. The 4 gigabyte is probably where a lot of people make their start with a VPS. If they know, well, my business is going to be a lot bigger than your current web hosting can offer me, or I know that I need more accounts than your reseller can offer me, so I want to start here at the 4 gigabyte. The 6 gigabyte, this is what we see from high traffic sites, sites that are getting a substantial amount of visitors, and I say substantial, about 2, 3, 5,000 visitors a day or more. They start here at the 6 gigabyte, and we have some customers that can run. I've seen some up to 100,000 visitors a day, uniques, on 6 to 8. But again, this all depends on how your site's coded, what you're using. If you're using WordPress, how many plugins, are you using caching, and stuff like that. So really ask yourself, if you're interested in VPS, what's your objective here? Have you outgrown something, or is your site really popular, or do you just need full root access? So that's where you make that decision. And once again, on the cloud, you can jump up in our interface to the next level, pretty quickly. Unlike the old days of having to migrate VPSs, they're virtualized, so you just scale up the resources. And also when we get to our cloud dedicateds here, same, you can go right from a VPS to a dedicated, and these are really the workhorses, and these have really good prices right now. We're having a great special because we just launched these recently. At NameHero, we have hosting for every single site out there. We've handled some sites with millions of visitors a day, but how we handled that for a long time was custom requests. But we began getting so many custom requests for dedicated, we released out these 4 dedicated packages. So these are all on the cloud, but they are complete dedicated hardware. So you physically have the dedicated hardware just for you, just for your business. So even outside of VPSs, you see even higher performance. And that's why the prices are substantially higher than anything else we have at NameHero. The Hypersonic, it's a friggin' monster. I love the Hypersonic. I'm a server nerd. 16 cores, 32 threads, 62 gigabytes of RAM, 900 gigabytes of storage. This bad boy will smoke. But, if you're in need for high demand hosting, this is where you should be looking. And this is most of you out there that you have an online business and you're doing tons of hits. The holiday season here in the United States, it's approaching now, and we're going to have a lot of customers on web hosting, reseller hosting, and VPS that need resources for the shopping season. Black Friday and Cyber Monday, we're going to have a lot of these running to serve websites that are doing e-commerce. So that's kind of where you ask yourself, and some of can get to the fine details of these here in this video, because I feel like that if you're going to shop for a dedicated, you're pretty sure about what you need. Most of the time they look at the disk space. That's a big one. How much data do you have? But then of course the RAM, processors and cores, that's also how much power do you need? And of course the 62 gigabyte. I'm telling you, it's amazing. You should try it out. But that's NameHero. That's the packages we offer here, and what you need to be looking at when you're evaluating what is best for your website, what is best for your business. If you're a student and you're in university university or in school, our basic hosting's good. If you're a small business, small mom and pop business, and I don't know, I don't really like the word mom and pop sometimes, but that's traditionally what it's called. But if you have an offline business and you just need a website online, you don't have to pay a fortune. And at NameHero, you still get the premium infrastructure. It's we don't put you over on the cloudy old dusty server in the corner. You get the same infrastructure. It's just different limits, and then you can of course scale up as you grow. So if you have any other questions on this, feel free to let me know. I'm sure I probably forgot to highlight something that someone's going to ask, so feel free to ask questions on this YouTube video, and I'd be more than happy to answer those on the video. And likewise, at NameHero on our YouTube here, we ask, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, because then I know, well, people are need that information. I can go even more detail, or maybe break up, and I probably will still do this anyways, break up each product into a separate video and go through a sign up and some setups and all that. But if you didn't like it, this video did not help you, and you think I'm wasting my time, give me a thumbs down, and then I know, well, they didn't like that video. I won't do any more videos like that anymore. The thumbs up, then I need to scale up. Regardless of what you decide, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is one of the first ways that we release content at NameHero. So even when we're running sales, a lot of times I'll get on here and talk about the sale. So you can always stay up to date with our YouTube channel. I love YouTube, so make sure you do subscribe to that. We certainly do appreciate it, and we promise you're going to be the first to know about sales and some exclusive deals, and as well as training on how to better use your hosting package with us. So thanks so much for watching. It's our pleasure to work with you. If there's anything I can ever help you with, or if something I wasn't clear on, feel free to reach out to our team. It would be our pleasure to assist. Thanks for using and watching us here at NameHero.